Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, Isak, Dan Burn, Sven Botman. We have Ben Chilwell, Jackson and Gusto all not available for next match, and even James Maddison might not be able to play. We are playing Hacksaw Ridge right now, and we need to get something sorted. Andrew Garfield, if you're playing FPL, give us a shout right now because we are in a crisis. What are we going to do? Is it time to wildcard? It's time to dive into the data. Let's go for the Game Week 7 preview. Let's kick things off by looking at the most transferred in players this week. We can see that Sven Botman is up there, although he does have a little bit of a knee injury. It might have just been the reason why he didn't play in the League Cup, but wait until you hear the press conferences for the weekend games before you make any decisions in bringing him in forward. He has not been transferred in that many times. We did look at Julian Alvarez, who was like 1.3 million transferred in. Sven Botman is not that high up the list because a lot of people did bring him in last week. As we know with my team, we did bring in Dan Burn as well, just for that little bit of a differential, but we do have to be a concern of him as well because he does look to be ill. That might be all fine by the weekend, but yet again, wait until those press conferences, as there is going to be decisions going forward with all these players and what's going to happen. We can see as well that Trippier is coming in obviously with a hat-trick of assists. He is near enough nailed on to start this weekend, although we do have to wait and see if she's going to be a minute's rest, as Champions League football is going to come up against next week, as Newcastle did beat Man City last night without Trippier on the pitch, so we are going to just maybe put a wee asterisk beside his name to see if we are going to bring him in, although I don't think I will because I do not want to double up with Dan Burn and Trippier, and I would much rather have the money in my team to have just Dan Burn, although Trippier will outscore him throughout the year. My only concern is the fact that I might have to sell some of my other assets. As you can see above me is my slideshow for players that I do have in my team and players that I am considering buying as well, and you can see that they do have a rating. That is a specific rating that I have provided for each player based on value, influence on the game, how much bonus points they're predicted to get, as well as goals, yellow cards, red cards. This rating does not reflect on how good the player is, it shows you their value, because price is a massive consideration in this, and it's only really to find out hidden gems within the game, because obviously Haaland, Salah, Saka, Son are going to have lower ratings because they have much higher price tags. This is for doing comparisons to try and find hidden gems that no one has selected. It also considers as well teams selected by to look at players going forward. As you can see, Dan Burn has a much higher rating than the likes of Haaland, which does not predict points scored. This also takes into consideration their fixtures of who they've got this weekend and upcoming ones as well. Is it home, is it away? It's a specific rating system that I use to try and decide who I'm going to be picking for my team. And you can see to my stats over to the right that I'm currently sitting in the top 250,000, which if you compare that to some of the other content creators who are all floating about the 1 million to 3 million mark, I think that I've got something a little bit different to try and help me build my teams. So if you do want to stay up to date with who I pick for my teams, make sure to drop a sub to the channel, drop a like on the video, and follow me over on Instagram, where I will be posting my teams on Saturday if you want to get involved. So we are going to move on now to who I've picked for my team for Game Week 7. So let's have a look at my team here, and as you can see, there is 3 major concerns in Dan Burn, Saka and Chilwell. Chilwell I am expecting to sell in the upcoming days. I just don't want to take a hit for it right now. It's a bit of a silly situation to be in, but I think I can easily switch him in for Botman or Fabian share, so I can double up in that Newcastle defence and free up some money to maybe increase Andreas to Neto. Now, I brought in Andreas a couple of weeks ago and he hasn't done awfully. He's got me 3 points each time, only for the fact that Fulham have been keeping clean sheets and he is playing a lot of minutes, which is great. But looking at Saka, he did not train the other day, but Saka is that good that even if he doesn't train, he can come on and play. But looking at last night, Reece Nelson did perform very well for Arsenal and he could slide right into that spot. So I am considering benching Saka and bringing in Archer, who is playing West Ham, but if he is on a penalty, he will get that. I do expect, based on history, that if a team gets humped like 8-9-0, they do end up coming out and winning the next game just out of sheer embarrassment and determination. And if someone is going to get on the score sheet, it is going to be Cameron Archer, just based on the fact that he is getting a lot of minutes, and he did score the other week as well. He isn't the greatest player in the world, as we know, coming from Aston Villa's like third choice, but Sheffield United they need to bounce back if they want to have any momentum to stay in this league, which isn't looking likely. But West Ham might be one where there might be just going in a little bit of too much confidence, and I think that Cameron Archer might be you might get a slight edge just picking him as well. Dan Burn, he is yellow flagged, but I don't think it's that bad. He's just got an illness, might just be the reason why he's not played at the weekend. As we can actually see from his stats, he has not been subbed off once, which is the reason why I picked him over Botman, because Botman does have a little bit of injury concern, as we've seen already in this season. But this is the team that I'm going to be going with so far. I am probably going to swap out Saka for Andreas, just because if Saka does come on, I don't want it to be too late in the game, and I'll probably bring on Archer for Dan Burn. Just keeping everyone else here on the bench. I might put Dan Burn at the top actually, just in case he doesn't start, because the worst thing you can do is a defender come on and then they don't get any points completely. But this is the team I'm going with. I'm still going to be captaining Haaland, just on the fact is, like, if you don't and he does well, you're so far behind because he is selected by like 90 odd percent of people. But this is the team I'm going to go with. I'm quite happy with that. I do have Kaburi, who did get an assist at the weekend there because he went down for Carlton Morris's penalty, and playing Everton and Burnley, they're not going to get any much better game weeks, although you can see Pickford is above me. I'm just hoping he gets a clean sheet. I'm hoping the Luton Everton game is just a 0-0 draw, because that would be really beneficial from a team and everyone who brings in Morris as well. Although Pickford, as we know, has not kept a clean sheet yet. He did outscore Matt Turner for the first time last week, which I am happy about. But we're happy enough with this team. It's not, in terms of the next game week, going to be the best sort of fixture, but the fact that I've already got Salah and Son and Haaland in my team, with Saka whenever he comes back from injury, going forward in the next couple of weeks looks to be incredible. So I am looking to try and get some more green arrows on that team, because it is going to be a big beneficial. So let's have a look now at your guys' submitted teams and see where I can use the data to help you. So looking at the first team here, we can see that they have made the mistake of still owning Sterling, which is definitely a reaction after the Luton game weeks ago, and they're still hoping out. Good luck to you, because it isn't going to happen. Chelsea are mince. Nicholas Jackson did score last night. Way in the League Cup with a very C team Brighton. They were absolutely atrocious all season. They will continue to be atrocious, and you need to start listening to the fact that Chelsea is not worth an investment. Obviously, I still do have Chilwell, but I'm just keeping him for the fact is that I'm waiting for the free up the money, which will be my next week's transfer, just so I don't take a hit. If you want my advice, the fact that you still do have all your chips, that's quite good for someone in this situation. You will want to be trying to sell possibly Rashford and Sterling to bring in maybe Salah and Neto. That could help you out a lot. It's not going to be the end of the world if you have to play Udogie and Umamba this weekend, just because of the fact that Saka might not. Keep Botman, keep Saka. It's not worth to take the hit on. Sell Rashford and Sterling if you do have 2 free hits. If you don't, sell Sterling and bring in Neto. Then you can sell Rashford or Bruno, and then you can also bring in Salah. If you do want to go down the route as well, you can maybe sell out Mbeumo, just because he is hitting a little bit of a rush patch, but that is Brentford in general too, and you can maybe bring in Neto and then maybe bring in Son as well. But so far it's not the worst team in the world, but the fact is, like, you look to have a lot of players that you've just bought straight after. You're going to need some patience on who you're buying and selling, because the team is good, but they're only good if you bought the players beforehand, and no data has suggested that these players have actually been bought on time. So that is my advice for you, and good luck if you have any more. Moving on to Team 2 here, I'm far more impressed with this team. The fact that you've still got Odegaard and Saka in your team, and you do have a free transfer with 2 million in the bank, that is pretty incredible. But you do want to be targeting possibly Son or Salah, maybe not for this game week, but going forward, you're going to have to really bring one of them two in. Looking at who you've got in your team, maybe downgrading Ruben Diaz to free up some money. Having 2 Arsenal assets at the 8.6, 8.5 region is maybe an issue, because Arsenal are not scoring that many goals. Maybe selling Saka this week to free up some money might be very good for you to bring in Son or Salah for the weekend after. You could maybe sell Saka to downgrade to possibly a Brian and Mbeumo, but Brentford, as we do know, are hitting a little bit of a rough patch, so we need to sort of wait and see how that one pans out. Your front two are perfect. They seem to be very template at the minute with Haaland and Alvarez. Muamba is just a bench rider at the minute, but you might end up having to play him just on the fact that Saka, Botman and Baldock are injured. It's not a bad team. Actually, do you know what? My one bit of advice for you would be to just roll over this weekend, because you don't want to bring in Salah or someone they're playing each other, but going from that point you might be able to free up more money and you could possibly bring both in. So my advice to you would be just to roll over this weekend, but this one's a pretty good team. I like the fact you've got Odegaard, because he seems to be a really good differential in your team, and with Saka out this weekend, if there is a set piece or a penalty, he will be on it, so keep him for this weekend. Yeah, very good team. Keep going with that. Roll over though. That's what you should do. So moving over to team 3 here, you are in a bit of a sticky situation right now because you do have 4 injury concerns, which means that somebody will blank if they all continue to go through that. You do have Salah in your team, which is fantastic, although Solly March has definitely not had the minutes or been talked about as much as Matoma, I think due to some minutes issues, so you might want to have a little bit of a concern around him, but I think you've got to put out your main fires right now, which is the fact that Burn, Botman, Saka and Chilwell are definitely flagged. If you do have one free transfer, it probably would be downgrading Saka, because then you can maybe bring in somebody else, although looking what happens, switch out Burn for Kaburi, that's an absolute must. And then the definite situation here is downgrade Chilwell to maybe somebody like Tim Ream, who's been getting a lot of clean sheets from Fulham at the minute, and he would definitely booster that defence as well, because if has Leno behind him, who's been doing incredible, that might make things so much easier before you actually have to wildcard. So Chilwell to Tim Ream is definitely the first fire I would put out. Saka then should be okay in the next couple of weeks, depending if he comes back to training. I think they're just sort of keeping him because they do have the Champions League match. He might not start at the weekend, but that's your first fire to put out. Is Chilwell to Tim Ream is what I would suggest, and then you've got to really look at the long-term effects of your Pep Roulette issue with Foden, Haaland and Alvarez, with the fact that Doku and Grealish is back as well. It might be something you're going to end up missing out on by only getting 1 or 2 points per week if they do come on. That's not going to be a great thing going forward. Dan Burn, I think, will come back, and Botman, them injuries don't seem serious enough, as I've discussed earlier, but that's what I would do for your team, is Chilwell for Tim Ream. If you do then have 2 transfers, it would be downgrade Saka or Foden, or even March, want someone else except obviously Salah. Looking at who else you can bring in your team, because you might want to bring in another Spurs asset, because they do look pretty good in James Maddison or Son, but do wait until the absolute last moment to make them decisions, because of the fact that there is so many injury concerns. The press conferences might free up some of that, and the players might be back in action for the game week. So that's all we've got time for today, guys, and remember, if you are new around here, please make sure to drop a sub down below and get your team submitted via my Instagram for next week's team review. Hope you all get green arrows this weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Goodbye.